Always choose orange.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Always Choose Orange, the show that provides actionable ways to develop and maintain a thriving creative process. I'm your host, Alex Acanero, and today with me is Noam Oxman. Noam is a composer who turns portraits of beloved pets into beloved musical compositions. His symphonies have garnered thousands and in some cases millions of views on YouTube. Noam is a passionate animal advocate and he uses his art to promote his message of compassion for animals and nature. You can learn more about commissioning your own pet's portrait on his website, and at least 20% of all proceeds are donated to help feed and give medical treatment to stray cats.
Always choose orange.
There's so many like different aspects of your work, and I'm super curious what your which one came first for you? Was it the visual art side or the music side?
I think I started drawing stuff from a very young age. Um, I do remember myself from the age of 4 or something, um, drawing. I had this passion, I guess, for drawing, um, and I think people around me were um, pretty excited about this in me because I think my drawings were a little bit above the average for this age. So I really loved it, and I loved trying to, as I grew up, I loved trying to achieve stuff in drawing, like perspective and shading and stuff. But I never really done it in a more than amateur way. So I only did this for a hobby, and I never really got into it professionally or something. But so around age 7, um, I started learning the harmonica. Um, yeah, I wanted to learn how to play the harmonica. So I learned with a teacher um, for several years, and this was my let's say this passion I took really further in comparison to drawing and painting. So I studied the harmonica. Um, I started playing jazz music on the harmonica, improvising and stuff. Then I started taking piano lessons around the age of 14 or 15. Um, and it kind of drew me because I started develop earlier like this I, I guess I was drawn to harmony, multiple notes that go together, that are played together and create beautiful sounds. So the best way to realize it in a musical instrument is on the piano. So I started taking piano lessons, and then I went to college, to the music academy, the Academy of Music and Dance in Jerusalem. And I started with jazz piano there. And very shortly after I started, I changed to music theory and composition. So my degree in music is in this area. And I also started around this time to play the accordion.
Cool.
So it's pretty interesting because the accordion is a combination of the harmonica and the piano.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, it's pretty interesting. So actually, the accordion is my main instrument now. I This is like the instrument that I really really studied. How to say, the most deeply, in the most deep way. Um, so I play Balkan music on the accordion,
Awesome.
mostly Balkan and Middle Eastern and Oriental music in general. I play some other genres and styles, but this is my like expertise.
What do you remember what initially drew you to the harmonica? Like I feel like that's a really fascinating place to like jump into music and the fact that, you took lessons in harmonica and sort of built up that skill and then switched to the piano and the accordion. Like I
Yeah.
find that super, super fascinating. Yeah, what was it about the harmonica?
Yes, I think it's two general things. Well, first, my dad used to play the harmonica. He plays several instruments as a hobby. Really, like he plays really little on each instrument, like kinds of flutes and South American stuff that he picked up when he traveled there. Um, so he played the harmonica. Um, and so that's one thing. The other thing is, I think I'm a pretty weird person. I
I love it.
mean, I always um, was drawn to you know, the odd things, like the harmonica
Yeah.
and the accordion.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fascinating. And then did you listen to a lot of music that had like accordion and harmonica in it, or was it more so like you were saying, the being exposed to your dad playing it like in person and stuff?
Yeah, so back then, I don't think I was exposed to, you know, to a lot of music with harmonica in it. I did listen to some. There's an Israeli ensemble called Adler Trio, and so they're a harmonica trio. They're pretty famous also around the world. Um, I did listen to them, but I don't think I think it was mainly my main exposure to this instrument was from my dad.
What type of music were you listening to mostly growing up? What was it jazz? I know you were kind of mentioning about like learning jazz piano and stuff, or did that come later?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I listened to what was played in my house, what my parents played. So it was mainly stuff like Beatles and yeah, and Israeli, like old Israeli music, that is very much inspired by Beatles and things alike. Um, Later I had a period when I listened to a lot of 70s progressive rock like
Okay.
Pink Floyd and King Crimson and Yes, Camel, all this stuff. So this was a very important um, period, I think, in my. I mean, it's a very big inspiration on me, if I may say so. Um, and simultaneously, while when in this period, I also was exposed to jazz. So so it was back in my teens years, and so I listened to a lot of progressive rock from the 70s and mainly from England and to jazz. And that's where I started also playing jazz because I think it's like the natural development of a musician. You start, learning general stuff as a kid, on a certain an instrument, and it's either you are on the classical music path and then you just play classical music most of the time, or you are like more a general musician, and then most likely you will go through jazz. um yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then did your sort of, because at least the pieces, and I know you have a ton of pieces out on your YouTube, and I've listened to like a large chunk of them, but there's probably many that I haven't heard. And a lot of them feel classically inspired. Did that sort of influence come from the composition degree that you got in school, or were you also simultaneous to the progressive rock and the jazz? Like, were you also taking in classical music as well?
Yeah, good question. So, as you can figure out, I guess I'm kind of all around, um, stuff in general, not just in music. I touch a lot of stuff, in many areas, uh, like also like, um, graphic design, and the drawing and painting stuff, calligraphy. Um, so in music, I'm also like that. I love to explore many different styles and genres of music. Um, so yeah, back when I was a teen, I don't remember I listened to a lot of classical music, but it was there. It was there. I was exposed to this, and I played a little bit on the piano. I played classical music too. Um, but later on my, when I studied for the degree, um, yeah, that's where I was more exposed to classical music, and and I studied it. Studied, you know structures of compositions. I got to know a lot of different styles and genres under the classical music title. And yeah, so I probably can say that this is the main classical if influence that I had. It was during my university studying.
What do you feel like helped you learn to compose the most? So what I mean by that, do you find it, at least for you personally, is it copying and playing somebody else's compositions a few times and learning their thought process? Was it just trial and error, sort of you just trying to make stuff? Was it, studying the structure piece of it? And I know all that probably comes together, but I'm just curious if you found that there was some aspect of learning that was the most helpful for you, sort of preparing you to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, so there is the thing that works um, best for me about learning, how to play and how to compose music. It's relevant also for playing music. Is something that I learned from one of my professors in the academy. So we had this course, which was titled Counterpoint. If you're familiar with this topic in music, it's a thing in music theory that everyone studies. Everyone that studies for a degree in music studies it. It's counterpoint. Um, but this professor, he taught this subject in a really unique way that I was deeply inspired by. And this taught me how to study everything. I mean, how to play in a different in a in a certain style of music, and how to compose in different styles, and even to develop my own style. So the way he taught us was to take we focused on one composer from the Renaissance era. This was Orlandus Lassus. So he was parallel to Palestrina, which is a more famous name from this era.
Yeah.
And we just studies two motets for two voices. A motet is a song, basically. And we analyzed these motets for a whole year, for just motets for two voices. So it's very basic. And we analyzed them in every possible way. I mean, he showed us what the rules for how to compose a melody and how to compose a counter melody that goes with this first melody. In a way, it was like a list of rules that if you follow them, you can compose a motet that will sound exactly like Orlandus Lassus. And it taught me a very important thing for me, because afterwards, this was the time that I started taking real interest in Balkan music with the accordion. And Balkan music is very, very complex. It has tons of ornamentations, and so this is the most complex part of it, and it's very virtuosic. And so you can learn one song or one tune, and you can learn exactly how to play one tune, and then you go to the next one and start from blank and learning it, and then you have one song or two songs, and every time you want to learn a new song, you have to start from blank, and it's really hard. But if you study one or two songs from the same genres or style, and you do this kind of list of rules for how the ornamentations are structured, what exactly what is right and what is wrong for this style of music. I mean, for example, if I can show you a demonstration, a little demonstration. If you have this ornamentation, I hope it's heard on the
Yeah,
Zoom,
I could hear it. Yeah.
Okay. So if you have this ornamentation in Serbian music, you can play it only with a few types of intervals. So it can be either this one or this one or this one.
Okay.
So 3 different intervals, and that's it. You can't play with this interval, for example. If you play this ornament with this interval, it wouldn't be Serbian music. Wouldn't be Serbian style. You could do it and it would be some other style of music or your own style. So this way you kind of put together a list of rules. For this ornament you can use only these intervals, and it gets more and more complicated because this is just one very, very basic stuff. And this method is what I'm using till this day, to this day, for learning everything. I mean, if I want to, also when I teach, I have students for accordion and for composition. So when I teach, I do just the same. I try, when we tackle, for example, a Romanian tune on the accordion, I show the student for each ornament or whatever, I show exactly what are the possibilities of doing it. And then when we study another tune in the same style, I show my students that here, this is the same ornament as we saw in the last tune, and now you can play it either like this or like this, and you will still be in the style. So if you play it like this, you will sound correctly in the style, and that way, when you want to learn a new tune, you don't have to start from blank and to listen exactly how this specific accordionist plays this tune. You can listen to the tune and listen in general to where are the ornaments, or if you are more experienced, already where you can put the ornaments, in which spots in the melody you can put the ornaments. Then you can imply either this way of playing the ornament or the other way, but you stick to the list of rules, and that way you are in the style, and you don't have to learn each time from blank. And the same method applies to composition. So exactly how this professor showed me how to compose in the style of Orlandus Lassus, a motet for two voices. We can do the same for much more complicated music structures and styles. So this is the way I approach composing and playing music. So it's sort of copying, basically, but it's not just copying. It's studying it's analyzing how the music works. But it's not just for music, it's basically for everything. I guess you can do it with paintings and everything, because if you analyze every aspect of the thing you want to do something like, you can apply it for everything, I guess. And I think after you do, when you get more experienced and you do it for many years, and you do it on different styles of music, different genres, you start to in to imagine your own kind of stuff, and it's all, influenced and is inspired from all the things you collected over the years.
That's absolutely fascinating, and I love that a lot because it's like you take a particular piece and you analyze it and you build all the rules, and then you can apply that. And it's almost like studying the form, sort of, right? And then once you have the form down, you can express those elements of the form uniquely as your own sort of style. Is that like kind of a way of summing it up, essentially?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I feel like I collect stuff from here and there while doing this method of studying. I just collect pieces, and in the end, when I compose something, I just draw different elements from different stuff that I just collected over time.
What point in your life, so you got your degree in composition, what point did you do your first pet portrait and come up, like, how did you come up with that idea initially?
Yeah, so I finished my studies around 2014, I think.
Okay.
Then I did, afterwards, I did all kinds of musical stuff. I did gigs with the accordion, with keyboards, with different bands. I had my bands. I played as an instrumentalist in other bands. I did recordings for productions. I still teach, and I did arrangements, all kinds of stuff, music for advertisements. Um, and I always wanted to. I have this thing that I I I I think far. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I had this. I have this desire to do something more, something that is more than, being a gig musician or a teacher or an arranger or all of these together. Um, I have this desire, and I've had it for, forever, I guess. So I always tried, to think, to try things, to try to do bigger things. Um, so, for example, before I started doing this sympawnies, I worked on a startup company. I mean, I started it.
Okay.
Um, it didn't go anywhere eventually, but it was a software for a music software that mixes recordings automatically.
Oh,
And so I tried this. I also recorded some. I recorded some. My own music. I recorded albums, trying to break through as a musician. Um, so I tried really many things. None of them worked extremely well, um, but I still had this drive, to do something bigger. And a few years ago, probably 6 years ago or so, I started it was when I started doing graphic designs. I actually started learning graphic design software when I needed a cover for my EP album.
Okay.
And I was thinking like maybe I'll rent someone, I'll hire someone. Sorry, um, but I had this pretty clear idea in my head that I wanted to just try and do myself. Then I just um, started learning how to do it myself. Um, so around this time, I started also making um, birthday gifts for my partner, which are around our cats. So I used this graphic design software to make cute little things for her birthday, like a portrait. I did like a portrait of her, of my partner, that is made out of little pictures of our cats. For example, I also made this one actually for her birthday another year. It's a
That's
series of our cats in space. So
I love.
just funny, cute little things. Um, and so around 3 years ago, or a little bit more, I stumbled upon a really beautiful. It was either a cat or a dog portrait online. It was a standard, painting, not something that integrates multidisciplinary stuff. It was just a painting, but it was very, very beautiful. And I was like, I wanted to do something like this for my partner for her birthday. And but I don't know how to draw like this. I told you I wasn't I'm not I never got into drawing, in this level. Um, so I wanted to do something like this. And I started thinking how I could do my own take on it. And then pretty quickly I had this idea of combining music with drawing. So I started thinking about ideas. I had an idea to use spectrograms of waveforms, like audio images. I wanted to use sounds of our cats and using the waveforms of this to create a picture or something. But then I it came to me. I suddenly I remembered J.S. Bach's handwriting, and if you ever saw it, you probably know that it's like this drawing like music handwrite. He writes his scores in a way that in musical notation there are stems and beams that connect the note heads, the little dots. So his beams are like twisty and stylish, they're like, and he sometimes he writes the like four note heads that are tied together with a beam, and two of the or one of the note heads are below the beam and the other are above it, and it's really unique to Bach, because most of the times even if one note head is really low, and the other three or whatever are higher on the staff, you'll just connect them with a beam that is above everything. But Bach used to draw the beam in between them, and it's really like, when you look at it, it looks like a drawing. So I just remembered it while I was thinking about ideas of how to draw with music, and then I had it. I mean, I like when I thought about Bach's handwriting, it was like eureka moment, eureka, you know.
Yeah.
It was like I found it. I know how to do it now. I mean, I had to then try, to test it and to see how practically I'm going to do it. But it was the perfect solution for me, because I thought, well, I can shape the beams however I want. I can use them like strokes, drawing strokes. So yeah.
When you develop a piece in that style, what do you mind walking us through the process? So, okay, like let's say you have someone hire you to do a picture of their cat. How does it go from that request to perhaps, what we see on YouTube?
Yeah. So first, I ask my clients to send me pictures of their pet, and a description of their character and their relationship with their human. Um, so I love when my clients share really descriptive paragraphs, because this is the best source of inspiration for each piece, because because I did a lot of cat portraits and a lot of dog portraits. I also did horse and donkey portraits, and snakes and guinea pigs and rabbits, and some other, and even wild animals which are not pets. Um, but for pet portraits, I mainly do cats and dogs, right? So everyone has their unique relationship with their pet. So when clients send me like a general description, it's okay, it's good, I can work with it, but the most inspiring stuff are the really descriptive ones. So I get this description and images, and then what I do is I choose a picture together with the client. So we choose a picture together, and I base the portrait on this picture. So I basically take it to I work on Illustrator on the computer. So I put it there, I trace it first, and then when I have the guidelines, I put it on a musical stuff. But before that, I have to decide, for which ensemble or solo instrument I compose the piece. And this depends on various stuff. I mean, sometimes the client plays an instrument and they want me to compose for this instrument. And this is actually great, because then I don't have to break my head, over it to decide which instrument goes the best with, with this piece, and etc. And sometimes they don't, or they don't care, or I mean, they just give me the freedom to pick. So I would try to also draw inspiration from the description for that. I mean, if it's a really mischievous, playful cat, I might use woodwind instruments like flute and oboe, clarinet, that can do these squeaky sounds, and high-pitched, mischievous kind of sounds. If it's a wise old dog, a very calm and wise dog, I may use the piano or string quartet with very rich textures and maybe lower pitches. So the character of the animal helps me decide which instruments to use. Something like this.
Okay. And then as you start making the song, do you edit it a lot? So do you do a version of it and then play it back and then say, oh, that doesn't sound right, and change little parts? Or do you do the way that you work? Are you sort of making those decisions in the moment, and by the time you finish, it feels complete and done?
So this varies also. Usually when I compose for the piano, for solo piano, or for solo instrument, any solo instrument, I'll start drawing the piece, and as I go along, I will also compose it, but it's not always like this. Sometimes, even if I compose for a solo instrument, I will sometimes just put together something, a sketch of the image made out of notes, and afterwards I'll start just tweaking, moving notes one up, one down, and changing rhythms, changing maybe changing the meter, all kind of stuff. So yeah, there are basically two paths I would walk in while creating my pieces. So one type of path is what I just said, putting together a sketch made out of musical notation, and then arrange it and fix it to sound the way I want it to be. And the other path is drawing, and while I go drawing, I also arrange the music. And I always try to. That's a very fun and interesting point. I always try to find like a melody or a motive, or even something harmonious that just happens randomly because of the pain of the drawing of the image. I mean, so a lot of the time, the eyes, for example, are the most fixed part, where I couldn't touch so much. I mean, when I draw the eyes with the notes, I can't move stuff so much. And a lot of the times, there's an interesting motive or full melody or something that occurs in these spots, and I can use it as like I can base the piece on it. And so this is really, really, really fun, because when you go composing your music, and you start from scratch, you start with a blank page, there are so many different ideas that you could start from, and you kind of, it's very hard, right? A blank page. I mean, there are so many possibilities. You just sometimes you don't know where to start from. And actually, before I started this project of sympawnies, before I started creating art like this or music, I didn't compose that much my own music because of this exact problem. Because it's so hard to start putting something on a blank page. But this this method of creating music is just dismissing me of this problem, because, well, I have the image, I so the image is a given thing, and I have to draw it with notes. And now after it's drawn with notes, there are a few spots that are pretty fixed. I can't touch them so much. So I know what I have to stick to. And this is and this is for this piece. Then another piece, I can use other ideas that, if I were to go to a blank page, I would want to use this idea and this idea and this. I would want this to be my best creation so far and use my best ideas, right? And then I would probably do nothing eventually.
That makes a lot of sense. There is something so special about having a limitation or a form or something that says this is where you need to start, and then you find the freedom inside of that.
Exactly.
Do you ever fit those pieces inside of existing classical forms or any other of the different sort of time periods of forms, or is it to the point where because you have sort of some of the fixed notes, is that sort of impossible?
Yeah, so I did try for several times, and I still do it occasionally. So I have a few pieces that are arranged or structured pretty much in types of classical forms. Um, I mean, I did a piece that is like a fuguetta, which is a small fugue. Um, and I did some pieces that are structured like a miniature sonata. Um, yeah, so it's possible. It's not, it it doesn't turn out exactly like, like the classical form that I aimed to, because it's really, yeah, it's really, really difficult to put it in, with the image. Um, so yeah, but sometimes, so I have many pieces that are completely like free form. They just start and they go with the picture. If the picture has a lot of visual information in one spot, so there's a lot of musical information in this spot. If there is also only like information in the left hand of the piano, I will just I will compose this spot just for the left hand. And I have on the other hand, I have many pieces that I like kind of force things on them to be, for example, in the structure of a sonata, or or other stuff. Is
How do
this
you? Oh, sorry.
answering your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I'm curious about is, so you said like 3 or 4 years you've been doing that sort of form of it?
Yeah, 3.5
Okay.
probably.
How do you keep it interesting for yourself? Do you ever find that it starts to get boring, or because there's such different images and different styles, is that kind of what keeps you able to do it and still enjoy it? Or I'm just curious about that piece, like how you stay engaged and enjoying it and challenging yourself and getting better and all those things.
Yeah, that's a great question actually. Because it it could get not boring, but repetitive and potentially boring. Um, so yeah, one of the things that I do to keep myself, you know, fully engaged and not bored is I'm not only doing pet portraits. So this is I guess the main part of what I'm doing, what I've been doing for the past 3 years or so. Um, but um, a year, a little bit more than a year ago, um, I started trying wildlife portraits because animals is my thing. So I started doing these wildlife portraits. So I did a massive tiger portrait composed for solo piano, and this was a very big project that I worked on for more than a year, um, because I had a lot of commissions, and I didn't have a lot of time to work on this project. And also we filmed a nice little video clip, um, and my colleague played it, which is he's a pianist. I'm also a pianist, but I asked him, and while he was playing the piece, um, I actually calligraphed it. I drew it. So we filmed this um, video clip, and it was a lot of work. So this this project was a very very important for me, and and after this, I made an octopus portrait in a collaboration with an organization from the US. They are called Avucha Animal International, um, and so it was for a campaign against octopus farming. This campaign is actually happening right now. And I also, another thing that I did and do to keep myself, really engaged, is when I just started doing this, I did them all just digitally on the computer. So I still create them on the computer because it's much more, I don't know, reasonable, because I have to move stuff so many times back and forth. And I'd had to do it all manually, it would be, wow, so much more work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in some point I started teaching myself calligraphy, like with nibs and ink, because I really wanted to take this and, I guess I wanted to do it more like they used to do it, like Bach used to do it. And so I started teaching myself calligraphy, and I started creating my pieces hand drawn. And this is so fun for me, because, well, first of all, it's a new thing for me, and I'm still getting better and better in calligraphy, and it's really fun. I love this meticulous kind of stuff, and the other thing is creating a one of a kind piece of art. It makes me feel something very different than, creating something on the computer that I can print,
Mm.
endlessly. And so this one of a kind piece of art that, there's only one copy of it, that even if I create another copy hand drawn of the same piece, it wouldn't be the same, exactly the same. Like, I really love this concept, and it's my, like it makes me feel something special. And yeah, so I started doing this by hand, and also the wildlife portraits, and I have so many, plans and ideas that I want to realize, and I will. And so I'm doing pet portraits and all this other stuff, and this is basically how I keep it more interesting.
That's awesome. I love that. The calligraphy. I would love to see some of the calligraphy pieces. That sounds super cool. I don't think I've seen
I'll
any of
send
it.
you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm super curious also about, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm super curious about your sort of inspirations in music that you've just loved over the years. And so a question that I love to ask people on here, especially musicians, is if you had to recommend three albums that anyone should listen to from start to finish. It could be an album or it could be a large scale classical piece or just any sort of music, but what three pieces of music would you recommend that people listen to? And it doesn't necessarily have to be your top three favorite, right? Because there's no way to answer questions like that. But just a few things that would give people a glimpse into either what's inspired you or what you just enjoy.
Yeah, that's such a hard question. And you sent it to me in advance, and I was like, how am I going to answer this? I don't have a clue. Um, but I guess I had this sort of important period where I listened mainly to prog rock from the 70s. So I guess I can say, King Crimson, Red, and In the Court of the Crimson King. But many albums from King Crimson are just great. And, Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Van der Graaf Generator, Pawn Hearts, and many others. But also, so this is from this genre, but also, Oscar Peterson, any of his solo piano albums, basically any of his albums. And the Doors. Um, there are so much inspiration in all all of the styles and genres of music. Um, also Balkan music. I don't get me even started in this. Um, this is really a niche. It's not for everyone, but it's yeah. Um, Classical music, I would probably say, well, I'm really, really, really into Ravel recently. I also just finished a portrait of Ravel with one of his cats that I'm going to share on his 150th anniversary coming up this March.
Wow.
And
Cool.
yeah, so Maurice Ravel was a cat person actually.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, so I took one of of him, the pictures of him with one of his cats, and I made a piece out of it. Um, so I'm very into Ravel recently, and so I would recommend listening to uh, La Tombeau de Couperin. Couperin, I'm not saying it correctly, but the Tomb of Couperin.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah, either the solo piano version, which is the original composition, or the orchestration for an orchestra. Um, yeah, I get that there are so many others. It's a hard question.
It is. It is. And I know you said don't get you started on Balkan music, but I kind of have to since you brought it up. If somebody's never heard it before and wants to check it out, and I know it's definitely, like you said, not for everyone. It's a very distinct sort of type of music, but do you have like a few recommendations if someone wanted to check it out and see what it was all about?
Yeah, so the most famous one, and for a reason, is Goran Bregovic. So I would recommend listening to his album called Alcohol. Um, it's great, really, really great. Then, if you want to go hardcore, there are there are also in Balkan music there are many, many styles, many different styles. So if you are into brass bands like Goran Bregovic's music, there's Kočani Orchestra, Fanfare Čukarlija. There's now Agushevi Orchestra. It's a They are more modern. They are like from their recent years. Um, if you want to listen to accordion music, there are so many also, but Bulgarian music, there is Peter Ralchev. In Romanian music, Ionica Minune. It's just a lot of names. I'd suggest you start from Bregovic's Alcohol. Maybe listen to Fanfare Ciucarlia, and you know, take it from there.
That sounds good. Okay, awesome. A few more questions here before we wrap up. So, another question, and this might be a bit of a silly question to ask just because of what you do being so unique, but I'm curious to see if there's anything that would come up. And I think this is one of the ones I sent you too, which is there anything about your process that you would consider unorthodox or strange that other people might find strange? Now, I know kind of the idea of the portrait is definitely unique and unorthodox, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that you do that other musicians might say, "Huh, that's interesting. I don't think about music like that."
Yeah, well, first of all, I get a lot of comments like this is not how you write music. This is not accurate. This is not true. It's like this so it's so funny. People are, I don't know, they are being weird, right?
Right,
But
because you're like, that's not the point of what I'm doing
yeah,
here.
that's not exactly. But anyway, so yeah, the way I write the music on the paper, it's the most unorthodox way of writing music, and it's not meant for actually reading, from the paper. I mean, you can read it, it's possible, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Another thing which is unorthodox. I mean, I guess and I don't know if it's unorthodox, but I use languages, musical languages that exist. As you said before, earlier in our talk, you said you noticed that a lot of my compositions may sound, classical, like classical music.
Mm.
So also classical music is a wide definition. So usually when we say classical music, we include Renaissance, Baroque, classical, romantic, um, and then some more modern styles like Impressionism and the music from the 20th century. So these are all languages. These are all styles that, as I said before, you can like kind of put together a list of rules for each of the different styles that if you follow, you will sound like this certain style. And if each one of them is like a language, and in each language you can express like a diversity of emotions, and you can also express the same emotion in different styles, and it will sound like a little bit different if you try. I mean, like if you try to express like a warm kind of character, through the music. So if you use uh, romantic style music, it will sound something, uh, you know, it will sound in a certain way, but you also can express the same emotion or nearly the same emotion with Impressionism, like Ravel. So each style, each language is like a palette of colors, and I mainly use the different languages that are already exist. Um, and I think so. So, for example, I can I can create a piece. I just created actually a piece, or the same example, Ravel's portrait that I just did. I made my homage to Ravel, and I tried to sound something in the area of Ravel's music. And that's what I mostly do. I try to stick to a musical style in each of my pieces. And I don't try to invent my own style. I do think that I approach each of the languages of each of the styles in my unique way, and that makes it, you know, um, mine in a way. But so I think what is a little bit unorthodox in this is that I don't try to invent the wheel.
Mhm.
And I think, well, music is both an abstract thing, and and a tangible thing,
Mhm.
right? Because sound is actually difference in air pressure. Something makes the air moving, makes the air move. It hits your ear, and so this is a tangible thing. It's a physical thing, and then your brain uh, makes out of it something that is abstract sound, and it happens inside your head. And when people deal with music, I mean, I don't know of anyone else who is doing pictures with music, but so most of the musicians are dealing just with the abstract um, angle of music, and therefore you don't have I mean, if you are just like copying or using languages that already exist or whatever, you are like, you don't have I mean, not really, but you don't have a right to exist as a you know as a musician. It's kind of hard to express what I'm trying to say, but um, since I create images that are made out of music, I feel like it's already pretty, inventive and new, and I don't have to try and also invent the wheel and in the style of the music. I can use languages that people know and that people understand, and that's a better way of expressing what I try to express. Because if I already did something new, and if I just if I also try to invent some new musical languages, people wouldn't understand it,
Mm.
and it will be like, oh, that's not how you write notes, and that's also not how you compose music.
Right.
It will be too much.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's unorthodox, but using languages that people understand and that are not new
That makes a lot of sense, right? And then it's the form that makes it unique and that sort of physicality that you have and these images of these pets or wildlife is
yeah.
kind of gets to come with it, which is super cool and it leaves people with something beyond, like you said, beyond just the abstract experience of music. The last
Yeah.
question that I have for you is what do you hope people think, feel, experience when they come into contact with your art? Any of your art in general, but yeah, just do you think about that sort of thing? Do you think about, if I could snap my fingers and then have people think, feel, or experience this, what would it be?
This project that I'm doing for the past 3 years is very, very accurate to the how can I say it? I mean, when you create art or music, you always express something, but it doesn't necessarily um, vibrates with other people, or it doesn't necessarily other people doesn't necessarily um, um, see exactly, or it doesn't touch them um, in a deep way, not always, right? And only um, only musicians or artists that that actually create something that does touch other people, have this, you know, recognition and success, and it's because they actually succeeded in creating something that translates the way, in ways that touches other people. And I think, um, as I said before, animals are my thing. I'm a really I'm an animal person, um, and up until I started combining my love and passion for animals with my art, I couldn't really touch other people with my music, because even though I expressed things, emotions and things that I find interesting or cool or beautiful, um, it wasn't there was a missing link.
Mm.
And when I started, um, you know, wrapping my art around the thing that I care the most about, which is animals, this was the point where my art actually started touching other people, because it was the most true, um, that I could do. And so what I want people to feel is, I think, exactly what they feel. And it's this shared love and compassion for animals, for either pets or all of the animals. And there are so many people around the world who share this, it's like a huge community of people who care about animals, and they don't want them to suffer, and they you know they want them to be well, to just exist and be a part of this world. Um and my I think people see in my art exactly those values and feelings. I also talk about it, right? This is a part of it. um yeah, and that's what I want people to feel. That's what I think they feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to share like my personal experience of it is, yeah, after seeing a few of your pieces, it reminded me, I grew up with two cats and I had two cats for like, I think like, I don't remember the exact amount of years, 10 years, something like that. Love them. And then I think died right after I graduated from college, and seeing these musical pieces and just the portraits of different pets or wildlife and stuff, and like the various personalities that they all have that comes out the way that you express those through the music and stuff. It reminded me of the personality of my cats and stuff, and had me think about them again for the first time in a long time. And so that was the cool special thing. So yeah, I mean that is definitely, like you said, I don't know, people are leaving you comments with similar stories and stuff all the time, but it totally is happening and it does come through. So it's a beautiful thing.
I'm so happy you're saying it. That's the power of music, really. um yeah, music is very special. It can really evoke deep emotions, and that's the power of music, and that's the power of a musical language that you know and understand,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. So yeah, as we close out, I will link to, just for people who want to check out your stuff and perhaps have never heard it or seen it before, I'll link to your website, so sympawnies.com, and I'll have that spelled out so that everybody can see it. I'll have the YouTube up there, Instagram, Facebook and stuff. Is there any other things that you either want to talk about, promote, direct people to for people who listen to this or watch this and want to know some place to start with your work, or are those just the best places to see what you have going on?
Well, thank you so much. Just one thing. I'm currently uh, running a campaign where I sell prints of my artwork, of my previous um, artwork, and to help real tigers. So I'm still talking with several tiger rescues, and I'm aiming to partner with one of them. And eventually, if I will be able to sell enough of my prints, I plan to donate my original tiger portrait that I completed this year or 2024, and so I plan to donate it to the tiger rescue so they could sell it and use the profits for the tigers for actually a lot of animals. There's not a rescue just for tigers, but
Sure.
that's the idea. So yeah, everybody are invited to, are welcome to purchase prints on my websites. The prices varies from $30 uh, to 350. Yeah, and it will hopefully help tigers and other animals.
Awesome. No, I love that. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a little bit late where you're at, so I appreciate you being willing to stay up and jump on here and talk about your process and your mission and all the things that you've been able to create. So, no, it was an honor.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Always choose orange.